In this video, let's take a closer look at the story of the hyenas from The Lion King, one of the most memorable groups of characters in the film. There are actually tons of hyenas in the movie's world, living in what's called the Outlands. But among this big group, three stand out and grab most of the spotlight. These three are Shenzi, Banzai, and Ed, and each one has a unique personality that shapes how they fit into the story.
Hey, shut up! Will you knock it off? Well, he started it.
First, there's Shenzi. She's the only female in this famous trio of hyenas, and she's kind of the boss of the group. Shenzi is smart, confident, and a bit sneaky. She's the one who usually comes up with clever plans and leads the others. Besides being tough and street smart, she's also the voice of reason when things get chaotic in the group. Her personality really shows her as a strong leader who cares about her clan, even if that means being a little manipulative. Then there's Banzai. He's definitely the loudest of the three and has a short temper. Banzai is always complaining, mostly about how hungry he is because food is super scarce where they live. He's quick to get angry and jump into fights or arguments, making him a bit of a hothead. Even though he's aggressive, the way his character is written adds a lot of energy and humor to the trio. Last but not least is Ed, who's kind of the comic relief of the group. Ed isn't very bright and rarely talks. If he does, it's usually nonsense. Instead, he expresses himself mostly through loud, goofy laughter. He's often smiling with a silly permanent grin that shows how clueless he is, and he tends to act clumsy or awkward. His weird but funny behavior gives the group a lighthearted feel, balancing out the intensity of Shenzi and Banzai. Now, let's take a closer look at where these hyenas come from, and why they were kicked out of the Pride Lands, which is where most of the movie's story takes place. The hyenas live in a place called the Elephant Graveyard, which is part of the Outlands. Unlike the lush green Pride Lands ruled by Mufasa and later Simba, the Elephant Graveyard is a pretty harsh and empty area. It's filled with bones and not much else, which makes it a tough place to find food. Because of this, the hyenas are usually starving and struggling to survive. The reason the hyenas were banished from the main Pride Lands is tied to the balance of life in that ecosystem, known as the Circle of Life. The rulers before Mufasa made a strict rule. The hyenas weren't allowed to live or hunt in the Pride Lands because they overhunted and threatened to destroy the delicate balance of animals and plants there. The lions had the job of keeping this balance, and by keeping the hyenas out, they prevented the hyenas from wiping out too many animals through overhunting. A cool detail comes from the Scar comic series, which gives more background on the hyenas before Scar took control. According to these stories, the hyenas were once led by a fierce leader named Zuor, also known as the Queen of the Bone Eaters. She ruled a desperate clan so hungry that sometimes they even resorted to cannibalism, eating members of their own group just to survive. When the lions banned them from the Pride Lands, it basically sentenced the hyenas to near starvation because the Elephant Graveyard offered almost no real food. One of the most crucial parts of the hyenas' story in The Lion King is their alliance with Scar, the lion who was always jealous of his brother Mufasa. Scar deeply resented Mufasa for being king and having all the power, while he remained in the shadows. This jealousy and hunger for power are what pushed Scar to seek out the hyenas and form a secret alliance with them. He knew the hyenas were struggling to survive because they had been banished from the rich Pride Lands, confined to the bleak Elephant Graveyard, a place barren of food and full of bones. Scar's plan was pretty simple but powerful. He promised the starving hyena clan that if they helped him take down Mufasa and Simba, he would give them unlimited hunting rights in the Pride Lands. This was a huge deal for the hyenas because they were desperately hungry and starving. The promise of endless food in a lush and fertile land was exactly what they needed to agree to Scar's plan. So, motivated by the hope of finally having enough to eat, the hyenas agreed to become Scar's loyal minions and helped him carry out his plan. Together, they staged the attack that led to Mufasa's death in the iconic stampede scene. Scar managed to kill his brother and also tricked Simba into thinking he was responsible for his father's death, causing Simba to run away from the Pride Lands in guilt and fear. However, the hyenas didn't catch Simba as Scar had hoped. They told Scar that Simba was dead to keep up the lie while Scar took the throne. Once Scar became king, he kept his promise in a way by allowing the hyenas to flood into the Pride Lands and hunt as they pleased. For a while, the hyenas enjoyed a feast like never before, finally having access to the rich territory they had been denied for so long. But their celebration didn't last. Because they overhunted everything in the Pride Lands without any checks or balance, the food supply started to vanish rapidly. This overhunting was exactly why they had originally been banished from the Pride Lands in the first place. They disrupted the natural circle of life by consuming too many animals and resources. So, as time went on, the hyenas had less and less food again, and the Pride Lands began to suffer. Later, when Simba returned as a grown lion and confronted Scar at Pride Rock, things took a dramatic turn. Scar, facing defeat and desperate to save himself, tried to save face by blaming the hyenas for all the problems that had happened under his rule, including the destruction caused by the food shortage. He threw the hyenas under the bus, trying to make it look like they were responsible for the downfall and that he wasn't to blame. In the end, this betrayal cost him dearly. After his defeat, Scar was cornered and attacked by the very hyenas he had allied with. The hyenas, feeling betrayed and used, turned on him, and he was overwhelmed and devoured by them, bringing a dark and fitting end to his reign. As for the hyenas after Scar's death, the story doesn't clearly tell us what happened to them. They don't appear again in the later parts of the franchise or sequels, so it's likely that they left the Pride Lands entirely once Scar was gone. Without Scar's protection and with Simba back in power, the hyenas probably had to return to the Outlands or somewhere far away, no longer able to hunt freely in the Pride Lands.